Our theme this month is non-attachment. And my topic today about letting your desire for certainty dissipate comes from spirit definition of non-attachment. And I get these downloads, and they talk about when they're giving me definitions of spiritual qualities, it always comes as a formula. And the formula is there's something we bring to the table that meets something that's already here. And then it describes what that connector is, what that activity is. And the spiritual qualities are always described as a where. I want you to really catch that, because we tend to nounify them and think that it's stuff we have to get, like we've got to get peace, we've got to get faith, we've got to get love, we've got to get non-attachment or joy. But they are verbs. They are activities that we become. We're not even nouns. We are verbs. Let that sink in for a moment. You're not an entity. You're not a verb that life is happening at. You are a space in consciousness that life is happening through. What a difference it makes to understand that, and that these spiritual qualities are who we are. What you're looking for, you're looking with. And it describes non-attachment as where your desire for certainty. Stop right there for a second. That's what we bring to the table. Our desire for certainty. It's not a need. Check that out. How often will we describe it as that? My need to be certain. My need to know this. My need, it's not a need. It's just a desire. It says non-attachment is where your desire for certainty dissipates. Dissipates. Okay. What does that mean to dissipate? Poof. Poof. I remember talking about this a couple of weeks ago with us living here in Santa Cruz, just like a quarter of a mile from the ocean here, from the Pacific coast, the Monterey Bay. And this area gets fogged in. I'm from LA. I didn't know anything about fog. And where I live, short here is particularly foggy. It's a fog belt in Aptos, where it just rolls in. But then it rolls out. You can't duke it out with the fog. You can't like scoop it up and put it someplace. You can't shoot it. You can't kill it. It dissipates. Like what happens with the darkness when the light comes in. See, there's no amount of darkness that can overtake the light. In fact, the darker it appears to be, the greater the luminosity is from the smallest amount of light. So you're in the dark and you say, well, what's this little candle going to do in all this darkness? It's just the other way around. The darker it is, the more important that single candle is. Think about this now. In our social, political context, and what's my little prayer going to do? What's my little this going to do? The darker it is, the greater the impact it is of the smallest thing. When you're in a discordant relationship and you're at odds with somebody, that smile, that little touch just on the arm, or little pinky grab, when you're sleeping next to somebody that feels like suddenly a stranger? How sweet. It's the smallest little gesture of love. And you feel it more the further away it appears to be. This non-attachment is where your desire for certainty dissipates from my infinite possibilities. Non-attachment when your desire for certainty dissipates from my infinite possibilities. See, there are infinite possibilities that are already here. They're already here. But we just don't see them. We don't see them because we're so trying to get certain about stuff that we can't see the infinite possibilities. This infinite possibilities is not just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. The physicists will tell you that we live in a field of infinite potentiality, that what we see in the outer world is just a smidgen. It's the particle part. But the wave part, the energy part, that's the most. Your body is mainly space. It's mainly space. The best analogy that I could give would be like if you had a room full of balloons. Okay? The room might appear to be quite full. But guess what? That's just a thin little membrane of latex with a whole bunch of space in it. A whole bunch of hot air. Bing. The slightest little prick into that latex. And what happens? Boom. Boom. It's gone. It's gone. Most of our life is filled up with a whole bunch of balloons that are filled up with all our hot air. Our stories, our judgments, our opinions, our goals, our striving. And it's taking up all the space. And we're trying to maneuver around these balloons. You ever drive with your car like full of balloons? You ever done that? And you can't see? And it just feels like it's massive. It's massive. But it's not. It's not. So the part that's like actually a substance is so thin. It's so thin. And it's mainly space. It's mainly air. Air that has pure potentiality. Air that could be doing any number of other things. So when you release that air out of that balloon, it's now available to go do something else. Be something else. But we act like, oh my God, the air that's in my balloon. That air, I gotta keep that air in that balloon. So, oh my God, if that leaks out, that air is gone forever. How will there ever be any other air? How will there, whoo. In my own journey, when I first tried to get into non-attachment, I first tried to get at it from the point of release. Like trying to pry my little fingers off all the things that I was so attached to. It's got to be this way. And you know what? A lot of my attachment to it's got to be this way wasn't even necessarily stuff I wanted or things I even wanted to happen. It was just my limited perspective of what's available. I couldn't see anything else. So it's got to be this way or it's no way. Because I can't imagine anything else. Do you have any witnesses in the house? And I spent so much time trying to pry my fingers off of my preconceived idea about what it was supposed to be or how it was supposed to happen and all of that. And I don't know about you, but that only got me so far. It's that pain pushes until vision pulls. And when I'm busy trying to pry my little hands off of what I think is so important, that's the pain pushing. That's the pain pushing. That's my attachment to this thing I don't want to lose. Or I don't want it to go away, or whatever that is. Or I don't want to live in the uncertainty of whatever. But I didn't really understand non-attachment till I got into the vision pulling. I didn't really get into non-attachment until I could get into that consciousness of another way. If it's not this way, then it's another way. Let that sink in for a moment. If it's not coming through this relationship, then it's another relationship. If that plumber can't show up at 5 o'clock, then there's going to be another plumber, or there's going to be something else. If I don't have this particular thing on this day, then it be something else. If I don't have this to eat today, then I'm going to eat something else. If it's not, then it'll just be something else. Are you with me? And elevating something else in my mind. Listen to what I'm saying. Something else was inferior. Something else was second tier. Something else was whatever. But opening up my mind to the infinite possibilities. And here's the kisser. Having to admit, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's best. I don't know what's highest. I don't know the way that it really ought to be. So my big thing, usually, people who work with me, they'll hear me say this term a lot: split the difference. Split the difference. I'm one for compromise, working it out. I believe in democracy. I believe there's always a win-win. It may not be exactly what you want, but there's always something that can work. So that concept of this Lord or something better worked for me. It got me into the split the difference. It's that what my spirit letters tell me is that it's okay to vision stuff. It's okay to imagine what it could be. Just don't get attached to that thing. Let the visions that you have lead you to the possibility of what can happen. So when we make our plans around here, literally on the plan, it always ends with this Lord or something better. Or something better. Because it keeps us wide open to the possibilities that are beyond anything that I can see in this moment. See, you can't see your good. You don't know everything that's happening. You can't see the stuff that's right around the corner. So we vision, we manage, we do the best that we can with what it is that we have, but you don't know. Like, just an example. So I mentioned earlier that Jamie, Lula, and I were doing some songwriting. And we made this date, I don't know, several weeks or so ago, when he let me know he was coming up to Asilomar, down the way in Monterey, for the week, to be the musical inspiration at this conference down there. So we chose this day, and there have been some partial songs and tunes and things that have been with me for a while that I've wanted to flush out with somebody. So I don't know, I think I sent him like 6 or 7 things or something like that. To possibly work on, and like who knows, but I really would like to get some movement on some of these. Some of these things I literally have had for decades. Like when I lived in LA, like almost 30 years ago. So we're at dinner with the Downings, I guess Thursday night or something like that. Thursday night, we just come in from prison outreach. And I want to thank Jamie for joining us at one of our graduations in the prison program, and he played, and it just really set things off for the inmates. And I think Ganena mentioned Wilhelmina. And he didn't know anything about Wilhelmina. So Wilhelmina is one of my alter egos. And she's from the hood, and she got issues. She got lots and lots of issues with all this spiritual stuff. And I call her my emotional ventriloquist. No, I call her our emotional ventriloquist, because she blurts out what we're thinking. There's a good Wilhelmina piece on YouTube and my TEDx Berkeley talk. It was about prison outreach, what I'd learned about forgiveness, and it ends with Wilhelmina's piece on forgiveness. And, just like a little taste of when I say Wilhelmina got issues. So, so it starts off with, why I got to forgive. Why I got to forgive. And why I got to forgive. Which I'm sure we've all been there, like someplace. So I played for him a couple of Wilhelmina pieces. And he just started doing some music to it, doing some drumming. And he helped me see that Wilhelmina's, I keep calling it spoken word, but it's theater. That it's really theater. And like all what we could do with that. And I was sharing something else about a spirit letter, and he got a hook. He got a hook on one of the verses. And we started writing a new song. Okay? So the moral of the story is, I sent him a bunch of stuff. But that's not the stuff that got flushed out. Are you with me? If I had had a whole bunch of attachment to these particular songs being the ones that we worked on, we would have missed. We would have missed all that. It never had even occurred to me to share with him Wilhelmina. Just somebody said something. You get what I'm saying? That there's a way, that there's another way. There's a way that life is always unfolding. And if you get too stuck on what you think that you want, you're going to miss it. So in an instance like this, as an example, you stay upstairs. My deepest intent was to be creative. See, my deepest intent was to be creative and collaborative. See, my deepest intent was to see what would happen, what kind of synergies would happen if our creative energies came together. So you stay up there. See, that's pure possibility. That's that empty air space where you don't exactly know what it's going to look like. But if you fill up all your empty air space with forms, with balloons that you've blown up, with ideas about what you think it's got to be, then you don't have the space for the possibility. Then you don't have the space for all the things that God is trying to show you. The things that are going to be so much better. And here's the thing that I know that I know that I know. That I don't know. But because I don't know doesn't mean it's an unknown. The fact that I don't know doesn't mean it's an unknown. It's a known. And I know with every inch and fiber of my being that whatever God has in store, the divine, the great, is, I really don't care what you call it. What serendipity has, or I don't care. Is that clear? I don't care. But whatever that is, it's really, really smart. And not only is it really, really smart, but whatever that is, it's going to be easier. It's going to be more cost effective. It's going to be more expansive. It's going to be more inclusive, more sustainable, more creative, more powerful, more beneficial, more anything than what my pea-brained imagine. So I understand now my role. My role is not to figure it out. My role is not to have the answer. My role is to know that there is an answer. Check the difference in that. Our role is to know that there is an answer. That's all you got to do. It's just wake up with the affirmation. I don't care what it is. I don't care whether it's illness in the body temple. I don't care if it's a financial situation. I don't care if it's a relationship situation. I don't care if it's a global situation. Can you listen to what I am saying? The doom and gloom that we're getting into becomes its own self-prophecy. It becomes its own self-prophecy. We gotta stop. We just had the shooting in Gilroy. And we've had 2 more mass shootings in 24 hours. Another one in Dayton, a nightclub. El Paso, 11 hours before that. We've had 216 days in 2019. Do you know how many mass shootings we've had? 250. It's been like that for the past couple of years. A mass shooting is 4 or more. We have more mass shootings than there are days in the year. What I'm about to say is going to go way out on a limb. We keep talking about these as being lone people. No. They may be the only shooter, but I got a theory. If you keep having hundreds and hundreds of mass murderers, and they all got the same demographic profile, I'm just saying. If they've got the same socio-demographic now come on now. If these folks were Muslim, there wouldn't have been a second or third. We'd already kicked everybody Muslim out of the United States. And I'm not saying this to be judgmental. I don't know who this last one was in Dayton. But if I was a betting person, I bet this guy wasn't black. I bet it wasn't a woman. I bet it weren't Muslim or Buddhist or Jewish or gay. I'd be willing to put some money on that. And when you look at the social media profiles of these folks, they're white supremacists. We need to just call it out. They are white supremacists. Racism hurts white people too. White supremacy hurts white people, not just people of color. It hurts white people. These shooters are in pain. We can try and talk about ending things on the supply side, and I'm all for gun control, but there's not enough gun control in the world that's going to change the hearts and take the fear out of people who are doing the shootings. So I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you to do 2 things. 1, dial it down a few notches. The people who aren't wrapped that tight, and the ones who don't have a lot of support systems, the fragile, the vulnerable amongst us, they act out what the rest of us are thinking and feeling. It's like if you have parents that are arguing, they may not hit each other, but their children will. Okay? It's too high. The judgment, the condemnation, the fear, and all, the frequency's too high. Whatever judgment you've got in your heart, dial it down a few notches. Do some forgiveness work. Do some clearing work. Vow to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So 1, dial your own animosity down a few notches. And 2, up the oneness. This may sound like a really strange thing to say, But these folks got to be prayed for. They got to be prayed for. They've got to be loosed from their fear, from their anxiety. If you have an at-risk youth, you don't rehabilitate that youth with more judgment. Locking them up is not going to do it. If we really want to have a society that's really loving and safe for everybody, we've got to have non-attachment to who we think is the good person. Listen to what I just said. Who's the bad one? Who's the good one? Okay? Supremacy is supremacy. It don't always come with a gun. Sometimes it comes with self-righteousness and looking down our noses at other people and thinking we got it and they stupid, or we're evolved and they're Neanderthal. But it's the same stuff. Jesus says it doesn't matter if you're not murdering your brother, if you're killing him with your words. Do you have enough non-attachment to put everybody under the cloak? Quote unquote saint and sinner. Can you have enough non-attachment to just keep shining no matter what's going on? To not have the news turn you into something that's negative or a naysayer? Can you have enough non-attachment, meaning whatever desire that you have for certainty, to just let it dissipate because there's a sense of infinite possibilities? Because if we're just in judgment about what's going on, we're not in infinite possibility. And I'm inviting you to join me in infinite possibility. Everybody's redeemable. Everybody's redeemable. Every single person is redeemable. That's why we do the prison outreach work. Everybody's redeemable. Every supremacist is redeemable. It's possible. And I won't go into all, because it's late, all the history lessons about, like, the proof of it. Think about your own life when your heart's been hardened. Something can happen. Something can happen. And I invite us as a spiritual community to let your desire for certainty dissipate into infinite possibilities. That you don't get so stuck on who you think has to go and who has to stay and what things have to happen and how they have to happen, and just say, God, heal this thing. Heal this thing. We bear ourselves open to divine order and right possibilities beyond anything that we could possibly imagine, because when God comes through and heals it, it leaves no one behind. When God comes through, everybody and everything is redeemed. People aren't just punished. They're redeemed. They're redeemed. And now is the time. And if I sound harsh, it's because it is harsh. We got to wake up. We have to wake up. We are not helpless. We are not powerless. Whatever's happening in the White House, what's happening in your house? Is your house an example of what you want to see in the White House? And when there are enough our houses doing what we want to see in the White House, then the political momentum will go in that direction. As we create the demand for that. Yes? Yes? Just breathe that in for a moment. Just breathe that in. Before I close out, I'm going to invite Ganane Downing up. She asked me if she could say a word to not only the congregation, but to the ones that are streaming. My message goes on Facebook and YouTube, and she wanted this to get within the context of that, and I think it fits right on about non-attachment and being open to the possibilities. So I give you 3 minutes.
I had a sermon in my head. I wanted to come up and tell you about exactly what Reverend Deborah's talking about, non-attachment. Yesterday I had a car accident. I was thinking I was going to get home and go to bed, and I didn't. We don't know. There's no guarantees. But what I do know is what I've learned here that's transformative. While I was in the midst of the accident, I was hearing Reverend Deborah say, there's a blessing everywhere. There's a blessing here, even in the midst. I also learned here in Inner Light that prayer is first resort, not the last resort. I went into prayer. I prayed for the people in the other car. It transformed the experience. There were miracles that were happening everywhere. And I won't go into detail, but I'm just saying it transformed things, and this is what I've learned. And then 8 weeks ago, I had a knee replacement, and I went into that knee replacement with so much peace. I was so prayed up. Prayer works. We are a praying community. So I'm telling you this because Inner Light, if you do the work, if you work the principles, if you utilize the spiritual qualities like non-attachment, last month was joy, finding joy in the middle of a car accident. Oh my God, I had a firefighter hold me last night, and I cried because it felt so amazing. I mean, I learned how to do that here. So I'm saying this because I'm inviting our global community to join us. If you like what you hear here, which is amazing, it will change your life for the better. Amen. I feel joy just being. If I tap into God and contemplate God, I feel so much joy my skin can barely contain it. It's an amazing feeling. I don't have to have anything. I don't have to do anything. I can just be and feel it. And I learned how to do that here. I've given up my story. I don't talk about things that are inconsequential that happened in the past. I gave it all up. And I learned that here. So I'm inviting our global community to join us in support. Inner Light needs you. Inner Light needs you more than ever. We are moving forward. We don't know yet what that's going to look like, but God reassures us that it's going to be amazing, and it's right under our nose. That's right. So we are in anticipation of something incredible, and so we're inviting you to help us. Inner Light really needs to know how much we can work with month to month. So we're inviting our global community members, all of you out there in Cyberland. It costs Inner Light money to bring this live streaming to you. So we're asking for your help. If you could offer 10, 20, 30, whatever works for you, dollars a month, so that we know what we have to work with, so we can budget. This is really, really important. So thank you for your consideration. I know that there is joy in giving, and Reverend Deborah talks about this, that the more you give of your love, of your time, of your talents, it comes back to you. Money, it comes back to you quantumly. It's the law. It has to. It's energy. It has to come back to you. So thank you for joining us, folks in South Africa, Spain, Italy. Yeah, thank you. Please join us. We love you, and we made a place for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlena. Thank you, Carlena. We need to breathe. We need to breathe.